I lived on a diet of orange juice and peanuts to get me through my A-levels.
Indeed, Rachel has disappeared. This is a great Hi guys, so welcome to Amplified. We've got a really special guest with us, Rachel Gardner. So Rachel, I've got one question that young people care about a lot, okay? So would you rather have teeth for toenails or toenails for teeth?
Okay, if we can have fairly polished toenails, I'll have them as my teeth.
Nice.
That's a great question. Love it.
That is the best question ever.
So now we know everything we need to know about you. I'm joking. But tell us a little bit more about you, if you would, please.
Yeah. So I'm Rachel Gardner. I live in Preston in the northwest. Mighty northwest. It's raining today. It's so cold. From London, moved up here under a year ago. I'm part of a church plant. I'm a youth worker. I'm president of the Girls Brigade. I'm a mummy to 2 adopted kids, married to a ginger northerner who has through lockdown, his beard has got even more and more pointy, like it's right out here. And that's me. I get really passionate about things that stop young people living their #best life. So I like to get involved in campaigns and activism, and also just releasing so under 25-year-olds to be leaders of culture and of the church. So that's me.
That's epic.
Amazing.
So the next question really is, so who is Jesus for you? What does Jesus look like?
Oh, Jesus, he's the sweetest friend. He's also the complete wrecker of my dreams, because I think I had this idea of what my life should look like. And Jesus is like, no, mate, I've got a much bigger plan. I've got a more audacious dream. He's the one that absolutely destroys fear for me. And I regularly need to come to him and say, just destroy that fear, Jesus, because I'm just feeling the fear. He's absolutely saved my life and continues to save my life on a regular basis. Saved my marriage, saved my parenting. So he is the saviour of the world, but I see on a daily basis how he rocks up in my life by his spirit and just makes a way. And I couldn't follow anybody else than Jesus, really. I've tried to. When I was about 19, I gave it all up. I travelled around Europe in a band with the girl-boy band thing. I tried to walk away from Jesus. I looked into other religions. I tried other philosophies. But I just had this nagging suspicion that Jesus was it. And so I spent a few years sort of searching and came back to the fact that there is nobody like him. So yeah, that's Jesus to me.
That is so cool. I just love that, like the way that we all go different places, but Jesus is the one we come back to.
Yeah,
That's epic.
definitely.
So, especially if you've grown up in a community or a family where you almost need to deconvert to kind of reconvert, because sometimes we can inherit a faith that we think is ours, but it's not ours. It belongs to other people, and we need to kind of unpack that and choose for ourselves. And I think that's awesome if you can do that. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to ask the next question. So the next question is, what does living with faith look like for you at the minute? In things, obviously, with the changes, with lockdown, with the coronavirus and things like that, what does it look like for you to live with faith at the minute?
I think as an entire world, we are all having to live with faith, because none of us know what the heck is going to happen. The question is, what have you got your faith in? Is it in the mask that you wear, as good as they are? Is it in washing your hands, as important as that is? Is it in government policy? Is it in the amount of money in your bank account? Is it in your grades at college? Like, we all put our faith in something. So I think for me, this season has really taught me that having faith in Jesus is not a luxury. Like, God is not, I mean, God can be just a kind of added bonus if that's how you want to see God, but God isn't an added bonus in your life. He is the foundation. And I think for me, I've had to really learn again what having faith in Jesus means. It means that ultimately, okay, I'm going to get pretty serious pretty quick now. Ultimately, if this virus takes me out, that's okay. I know where I'm going. So that has implications, which doesn't mean like I act like a complete idiot and act as if like God's protecting me, so I'm not going to socially distance. It doesn't mean that at all. But it means that actually, bottom line, if I have faith that Jesus saved my life for the here and now and for the afterlife, then actually I can have confidence to go about my everyday life. Fear doesn't have to rule. And I think it's kind of, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that's landed loud in my life a bit this season. Do I really trust that God is everything? So it's been big, yeah.
And on that, I think for me, it's been about seeing what other countries are doing, seeing what our country's doing, and going, actually, there is something bigger. Like the decisions that the people around me are making do not have the impact that Jesus's life has an impact on. So I think it's just, it's been a challenging time.
It has been a challenging time, hasn't it? And I think we haven't yet seen, kind of coming out of this, how it's affected all of us. And that's, I suppose, a big concern for me, is I'm so conscious that we're all going to be affected. I think we've all been traumatized by this, actually, whether like we've got COVID-19 or people we love have got it or not. On one level, all of us have been quite traumatized by this and being quite affected by this, and feel our frailty, that actually we could get ill. Like, this affects all age groups. I know young people less so, but in terms of the mental health and the well-being, I think young people have really carried the brunt of that. And so I think that asking yourself, who and what do I have faith in now, is a really important question for all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And I just want to, what inspires you to have that faith? Like, who in the Bible or who in history inspires you to trust in Jesus above it all, and to say that?
That's a good question. It's a bit old school now, but the Kanye West track, Jesus walks with me.
Yeah.
I love when I open particularly the Gospel of Mark. I have that soundtrack in my head, because what you see is Jesus on a march. He's like marching towards death and towards victory. Like he's on a mission. And what you see in Mark's Gospel is every single time people encounter Jesus, they encounter power, like they encounter the miraculous. And Mark is like, I'm going to tell you the stories of people's lives that change. Like, people who are possessed with demons are released. People who are dead come back to life. People who have been bleeding out their vaginas for like 20 years. And yes, I did use that word because that is significant in that story. Like, Jesus not only heals, but restores them. And I think there is something quite in your face about how Jesus encounters people and how they encounter him, and the change that makes. And I think so for me, the person that inspires me is Jesus. And then I look around me at people who have Jesus in their life, and it's people like, Jackie Pullinger going to China and spending all her time with meth addicts and crack addicts, and then it's the teenager that I know in our church, she's the only Christian in her school, and she like starts a Christian union because she's not afraid. So I think I just look at the difference that man, by his spirit, because he's God, has in everyday people's lives, and that inspires me. And I think, do you know what? Because Jesus is God, he can take my tiny inch of faith and he meets me with a mile of grace. Like, it's actually okay that some days I wake up like, I feel like my faith in you is really tiny today. I think my faith in caffeine is a bit bigger, all right, because I'm always going to meet you with an ocean of grace. I'm always going to meet you with all my power, all my authority. And I think it's such a good question, but I think that's what inspires me to keep going, I think.
That's epic. That's like, it's so amazing to hear. Like, it inspires me to hear you inspired, if that makes sense. Like, I think
Cool.
when we hear of stories of really cool stuff happening, it just can only make us excited about what God's doing. And I think, like, I've seen that with young people, and I think seeing God move in young people's lives is nothing. Like, have you got any examples or like situations where you can say God moved in a person's life that's gone, that is what I want?
Yeah. Just loads and loads and loads of stories. And you know what? Sometimes the best stories are not the biggest stories. They're the kind of the truest stories. Do you know what I mean? Like, the problem is that you can go to events, and I love Soul Survivor, and I love the events that you guys go to. But the danger is we hear the speakers on the platform, like, I was wandering around the fruit aisle of Tesco, and I suddenly started singing at worship, and everybody like was slain in the spirit, and there was a revival. Yeah. And those stories are amazing, but they've never happened to me, and I bet you any of them haven't happened to you. But what has happened to me is, so during lockdown, our church is right in the heart of our city, and we have in the immediate area around our church, it's where all the sex workers hang out, it's where all the drug addicts hang out, it's where the homeless hang out. So we were like, right, God, we're going to look after the people who would fall through the cracks. And we've been feeding them and caring for them and hanging out with them. And then we've been asking them this question, simple question. If God could do a miracle in your life today, what would you want that to be? And I imagine it would be, give me a house, like give me a condo, give me a yacht, but no, it's things like, just let me know that I'm loved. And so all through lockdown, I've been sitting on the steps outside our church with these amazing women who are vulnerable sex workers, with some pretty scary pimps, with some homeless people, with some teenagers that come and be part of our team. And we've just said, if God could do a miracle, what could it be? And they've said to us, you're the miracle. Like, you're here loving us and feeding us. So I've watched the young people in our church and young adults. Our project has been, we've kind of said, if you're under 25, get involved with this project. Because we're a bit more concerned about the old generations, about getting COVID, but younger people, we could do this. So I've watched them grow in confidence, that they can say to people, if God could do a miracle in your life, what would it be right now? So I've loved watching them grow. And do you know, the awesome thing is, Jason and I, my husband, we do this thing every Sunday called #60-second sermon, and we get all these different young people and young adults just bring in their 1-minute sermon. And what we've seen is the stuff they've experienced during the week of caring for the most vulnerable and watching God rock up in those situations has really inspired them to read their Bible, to pray more, because they're like, if you are the God that like can draw close to people that everyone else has forgotten, like, I want to know you more. So I think that's kind of what I'm talking about being inspired by what God can do. And I just love that. It's just so amazing seeing what God does. Like, that's why we do mission, because we want to see what God does, don't you? Like, I'm curious, I'm nosy basically.
He's pretty great, isn't he?
Yes.
It's amazing, like this time as well, like with everything that's happening, that actually it just shows how people can come together in such a time of crisis, and actually just shows how actually, you know, people can grow in so many different circumstances. It doesn't matter, you know, like you say, you hear all these stories of like, you know, the amazing things that happen to people, but actually in a time of crisis when people come together, that actually people can grow from like the smallest of things. It just shows how amazing it is.
You're so right.
It really is.
That's so cool.
So next question is, what advice do you have for young people right now in the time that we're in? What advice would you give to young people everywhere, to young people who might be watching this? What advice would you give to them?
Whoa, I mean, that is huge. Number one, and this might not be relevant for everybody watching this, but I think at the moment, right now, as we're recording this, on end of July, like, this is a season in your life where you're ending a school year, maybe you're going to college, maybe you're, you know, so like at the moment you've not got that rite of passage where you're signing people's shirts at the end of school, or you got your leaders assembly, or whatever it is that you would have, and many of you are probably feeling that you're being a bit robbed of stuff that actually every other year group has had, but not you. And so I would say, if at the moment you're feeling angry and you don't know why, or just a bit more emotional, you don't know why, maybe it's because you're feeling like you've been robbed, like something's been taken from you. So my bit of advice would be just to give yourself a bit of time and sit and think, like, what actually am I missing out on? Now don't stay there, don't kind of go, oh, I'm missing out and woe is me, and I'm now going to just like mull over that. But I think it's good to acknowledge that this is different. What you're going through is different to other years, you know, last year's students, next year's students, and acknowledge that. And if you are somebody that loves Jesus, let Jesus speak to you about that, because you are not actually robbed essentially of anything. You can feel it, and you are robbed of some of those rituals, but actually God has so much for you. So that's advice number one. Advice number two, and this is my big plea. Okay, so this is my big thing at the moment. Loads of all churches have been shut, haven't they, during lockdown? And there are around the UK hundreds of churches saying we're about to reopen the doors. This is a chance for us to reimagine what church can look like. So my encouragement to you is get thinking about what you think church needs to look like, because actually you are not just leaders of tomorrow, you're leaders of today, but you will also be the leaders of church in 10, 15, 20 years time, when people like me are long since gone to glory. And this is such a significant time in culture to say, we actually don't want to be a church that just shuts the doors and just stays to ourselves. We want to kind of get involved in the whole of culture. And there's something brilliant about people under the age of 25. The way you see the world is different. The way you get involved with justice issues is different. And you're such a gift from God to the church. So get praying for your church leaders and say to them, like, I dare you to like email a church leader and go, I know that things are different. Can I be of any help? Like, honestly, like,
definitely.
You're 13, you're 14, you email your church leader and say, I'm really praying for you as church reopens. Anything I can do to serve you, just get in touch. Like, you count yourself in, because this is such a key time for the whole of the church in the UK, and you are such an important voice in the midst that we need to be listening to you.
Absolutely.
And I think totally agree.
Well, I'm flattered because I'm in that category of under 25, which is an absolute thing. But I think this is so right. I think I hate and I hate the fact that people say, oh, the young people of the church of tomorrow, forgetting that they're the church of today.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what you're saying. Like, the young people who are listening to this are part of everything that we do and are a massively important part of that. And I think church leaders need to know that.
Totally. I'm sorry, Arthur, that I interrupted you there. But if you think about things like Black Lives Matter, like if you think about lots of the big justice movements, so the environmental issues, like genuinely, it is younger generations that really spearhead that stuff. And Jesus' disciples were all probably teenage guys, maybe in their 20s as well, but they were young. And it doesn't mean that older people like me don't have a role to play. We absolutely do. But I think it's so important that under 25-year-olds are listened to, because the way that you see the world, it is different, and actually we've got to listen to you and learn a lot from you. Like, Black Lives Matter because it matters to Jesus. Like, racism is a complete horror, and it's a horror to Jesus, who, let's face it, Christ's human body was not of a white man, like he was a man of colour. So I think it's, and all the women that I love in scripture were women of colour, like none of them had the same skin shade as me. So it's really important, I think, that we listen to younger generations to help us reframe what does it mean to be a church that genuinely looks like the world that we're in, not something that was 50 years ago. And I think it should be all ages. Church needs to be all ages. Some of the best, most dynamic disciples I know are in their 80s and 90s. They teach me so much about faith. But now is the time to say the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. And Jesus raised up the children. So
and I love the fact that, so when I grew up in church, the best friends that I had in church were the 80 and 90-year-olds.
Me too.
Like, you get to spend time with people who are much older when you're in church, and it's just an opportunity to learn, to grow.
It is.
They're the most encouraging people in the world. Like, they're the best. Old people are great.
They are. Old people rock.
They really are.
Old people are cool. So what have you started during lockdown that you haven't done before?
Ooh, do you know, I've not started a single hobby. Like, some people are like, I've started knitting jumpers for little puppies. Like, I've not done anything like that. I'm such an extrovert activist. I'm going to be outside. I guess one thing is that at the beginning of lockdown, when you could only go out of the house for about 3.5 minutes, we live on a housing estate, and I would drag the kids around the housing estate, and there's an old people's home, and we'd wave to them like through the window. So I think probably what I have started doing more during lockdown is actually spending time in my local estate, because I do quite a lot of travelling around the country, speaking at events and doing things, and I'm like, actually, God's put me here, I need to love these people. And also working with the local police and the council around food poverty, that's a new thing for me, but I've not like learned a language or learned how to pogo stick or something. My daughter's done all that, I've not done that. I've been very unproductive during lockdown, can I just put it out there?
It's just such a strange time, like none of us, like I've started journaling, but that was a push.
That's amazing. Why did you start journaling? How did you start doing that?
So I downloaded an app on my computer, and I've just been typing away every day.
Awesome.
Upload photos in it and all sorts, which is really good. And it's been really good to be able to like just process stuff and think about all the things that are going on. And a way of speaking to God, really. When I don't have words to say, I can just write them down or express them in a different way. But I think even that was a push. Like it's hard to motivate. I think lots of people have started things, but I think it's hard to motivate yourself to get up and do something when you don't even know what tomorrow looks like.
I know. And the word motivation is the word. I mean, I think actually if people listening to this have actually got out of bed, like put some clothing on that isn't your onesie, like, and vaguely like done some kind of personal hygiene, I mean, I think you're a winner, because I think the motivation is so tough when your routine has gone. And also the thing about routine is, routine, the things that we know we need to do every day, even if we don't want to do them, routine is a way of managing our panic and our fear of the unknown. And the moment routine goes, not only are we dealing with like a global pandemic, we're also dealing with our own increased anxiety and panic. And I think a lot more young people I've spoken to have felt like, I just feel like I'm anxious and I'm fearful all the time. And because we live in a culture that says, if you have anxiety, you have got an anxiety disorder, there's something wrong with you, then I think lots of us feel, I feel like anxious, oh no, I'm now going to be out of control, and what can I do? And I think lots of us, the majority of us, feel an increased anxiety at this time. Now there is such a thing as anxiety disorder, absolutely, but I think probably what most of us have felt is, this is just strange, this is unsettling, and if that's what you're feeling, that is super understandable in this climate. And actually the great thing is, when scripture talks about the peace of God that passes all understanding, basically is saying, in those times where you feel like just so distraught and distressed and anxious, actually God's peace comes from outside of ourselves, and it becomes this amazing thing that can calm our hearts, calm our minds, calm our bodies down. And so the peace of God is tangible, it's a real thing, it's not positive thinking, it's a real thing that God gives us. So if you're feeling an increased anxiety, say to God, just give me your peace, that amazing peace from the top of my head to the bottom of my toes. I just need your peace to calm me, to calm my heart. So yeah, just asking, because you're right, Arthur, it's been overwhelming, hasn't it?
It's been crazy, such a crazy time.
Yeah. So I realise I chat for Brit in each question. I'm trying to like do short answers.
No, not at all. No, we're so happy, honestly.
So good.
So, well, going back on that, we were talking about this like in last week, weren't we? We were saying about the worry that. So we made some prayer walls in our last session. I've added to mine. So I've been doing like Zoom calls with my youth group, and then every week we've been thinking about some of the faith at home stuff. So like some of the words like compassion, love, some of those different things. We've been thinking about, like, our last session was yesterday, about compassion. So like people who are compassionate to us, and how we can be compassionate to ourselves as well, because actually one of the things that we've really realised, actually being kind to ourselves is so important right now in all of this, because actually, we, just like you say, just getting out of bed in the morning is actually, such an achievement, because actually for all of us right now, our routine has completely been wiped like out of there. So actually just being able to get out of bed is such an achievement for the young people and for all of us really, because actually we're all finding this strange and hard, and we spoke about it last week about our worries, and about actually we spoke about come to me and God will give you rest, you know, and that was one of the assemblies that I did last on. It was actually about just asking God, just speaking to him, just saying, God, just give me rest. I just need that time to just be able to just feel that sense of relief, that sense of like, you'll help and carry me, you know, you'll help and carry those weights and those feelings of like just feeling anxious about everything, just leaving the house, anything, just take that away. So yeah, it was really great that we spoke about that last week. So it's really great that, you know, that links in so well with it. But last week we also did a get to know me and Arthur, which was quite fun. So we thought, should we get to know Rachel? Okay, so the first thing last week we asked each other what our weird, wacky food combination is. So what is your weirdest, wacky food combination?
Ooh.
You don't want to know Arthur's, it's awful.
Well, I'm struggling to think of a weird combo. Like I'm a little bit of a purist, so when my family eat like toast with jam and peanut butter together, I'm just like, that's come from the pit of hell.
That's Arthur.
My wacky food combination is chocolate spread and then a banana and then peanut butter.
And then toast it. Isn't that weird?
It is weird because it like cloys in your mouth.
Yeah.
In your mouth. So I don't know what my weird food combination would be. I'm really disappointed in myself. Can I just say I apologise that I do not have a weird food combo. I'm going to get off this soon and I'll remember one now. Yeah, no, sorry.
That's fine. See, mine was toast and tomato ketchup, and Arthur thought that was weird, but I said, but you're just taking the bacon or the egg out, it's just toast and tomato ketchup. I said, it's just like similar. And then
that sounds like the sort of thing that you ate to get you through GCSEs and A-levels. Is that kind of thing? Like,
yes.
I lived on a diet of orange juice and peanuts to get me through my A-levels. That kind of thing.
Okay, so the other one was we were talking about our favourite songs during lockdown. So mine was the UK Blessing song.
Absolutely,
especially they've just sorry.
No, sorry, you cut out there. Keep going.
No, it's okay. They've just done it in sign language and Makaton, and that's one of the things that I've learned that's something new during lockdown, is actually teaching myself sign language, because it's always been a passion of mine to do that. So I've been doing that in like my assemblies for schools and things. So mine was definitely the UK Blessing, and it's been a song that my youth group have absolutely loved, especially like the chorus part of it. And then Arthur, do you want to tell Rachel yours?
Mine was the whole Kanye West album, Jesus is King.
Yeah, it's strong. Absolutely, you can't knock that one. I love it. I love all that. I have an 8-year-old in my life, and so we have been constantly on the very educational Disney Channel. But at the height of lockdown, when I dragged the kids out every day, and my daughter just didn't want to go out for a walk, so I'd tempt her out by saying, well, let's just walk around listening to one of the songs, and it is from Frozen 2, Into the Unknown, and I think it's become a little bit of an anthem for me, not because I particularly love Frozen 2, although it's a good film, but I was feeling like, I don't know what's next, but I want to step into what's next with courage, and that's what the whole song is about. It's like, what is this, where is this coming from, but whatever it is, I'm there. So I think the UK Blessing for me and the Frozen song, and also Christina Aguilera is singing the soundtrack for the next Mulan. It's the live action Mulan, and again one of the lines is, underneath my armour am I courageous, bold and true, and she's just a brilliant kind of girl power anthem, isn't it? Mulan, wonderful. You probably watched it as a kid,
definitely.
But just that wonderful thing, like I can have my armour on, like I get my lippy on, like I get my groove on, but actually underneath all of this, what's my character like? Am I bold? Am I brave? Am I honest? Have I got integrity? So yeah, those are mine, I think.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Well, it looks like we're out of time, which is rubbish. It's been so... But thank you so much, Rachel, for being with us. Thank you so much for everything you do for young people everywhere. And thank you for coming to speak with us.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Huge love.
Thank you.